Hey everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Baking Quarantine Edition. So before we get started, I want to remind you to make sure you subscribe and ring the notification bell so that you guys know when my next video is coming out, because I plan to do a bunch of these videos throughout the quarantine. So the idea is that we're gonna try to make recipes that are super simple and using ingredients that you most likely already have tucked away in your cupboard, so you don't have to make those extra grocery trips, as well as they're easily adjustable so that you can interchange things really easily or add all sorts of different flavors depending on what you already have at home or have access to go get. So for the very first recipe of this series, I chose sugar cookies because there are very few ingredients that go into sugar cookies. I'm going to be following a vegan sugar cookie recipe today, and I will be sure to link that recipe below, as well as write out some other suggestions that you could interchange for some of the ingredients depending on what you already have on hand at home. Okay, so the ingredients that we're gonna be using today are softened coconut oil, granulated sugar, regular all-purpose flour, baking powder, salt, and plant-based milk, and I'm gonna be using coconut milk today. Okay, we're gonna start off by blending our coconut oil with our sugar, and I'm gonna be using a hand electric mixer, but you can also use a standalone mixer, and we just wanna get it nice and fluffy. So at this point, it's really nice and soft and fluffy. This is when you would add your vanilla extract. I do not have any. You could also add some almond extract, coconut extract, lemon zest, orange zest, whatever flavor you want to add, you can do it now. So I just added in the salt. I'm not gonna bother with sifting the flour and mixing it with the baking powder. I'm just gonna dump everything in here and mix it in all at once. Why use an extra bowl when you don't have to? Now let's add the milk. Just want to give a little shout out to my friend Terry. She got me this super cute little bunny rabbit. I use it all the time. So this is the point where you want to take any rings off of your fingers, because we're going to get in there with our hands and shape our dough. Okay, so this is why you should always read a recipe ahead of time. You actually don't have to chill this dough, so even better, it's even faster and easier to make. I'm gonna go ahead and roll it out now. All I've got ready with me is my rolling pin, some flour. I'm using this little mini spatula to help me lift the cookies, but you can use a regular size spatula or anything else that you have that could help lift them up onto our baking trays. So I line my baking trays with Silpat, but you can just use regular parchment paper. cookies are cooling, it's time to prepare our icing for our decoration. So this is such an easy recipe because it's literally icing sugar and water. And I'm actually not going to be measuring this whatsoever. I'm just going to add some icing sugar, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of water, and I'm just gonna add it gradually so that I can get it to the consistency that I'd like it. And the beauty about this is that you can always add more icing sugar or more water to get it thicker or looser depending on what you need. All right, so I'm just going to add in, oops, I actually wanted to sift this. Just going to sift out any lumps because they are kind of tricky and stubborn to get out once we... Charlie? Because the little lumps are actually kind of tricky to get out once we start mixing, so I do recommend to sift. And if you're wondering why am I using this tiny little sifter, it's because my big one is still wet because I used it earlier today. So this one will have to do for now. So I've got about this much icing sugar. I think it should be enough to work with. So now I'm just gonna add a tiny little bit of water. And like I said, just gradually add it. And then we're just going to whisk this until it comes to a nice consistency. Now, if you didn't want to do this entire like decorating step with the colors and the sprinkles and all that, you could simply just add lemon juice to your mixture and maybe some lemon zest, and you could just literally dip the cookies in that lemon glaze or alternatively orange. I'd also use some almond extract in here. If I had some, I would definitely use it because I love the flavor that it gives these glazes. But for today, because I'm just using what I've got, I'm just gonna use some water. Okay, this is looking a lot better. If you can see that, it's kind of like the consistency of that white school glue that kids use. So it's still really runny, but it's got a little bit more thickness to it. I think this will be perfect for glazing, like dipping in, as well as trying to do some piping. So I'm just going to quickly mix up some colors, and then I'm gonna get to the decorating. Before we get to decorating our cookies, like I said, some of them I will just dip and glaze, which is the easiest way. But if you want to get into a little bit more fancier piping, then you're going to need a piping bag. So if you don't have those tiny little plastic piping bags at home, that's okay, because we can actually just make our own. I'm using wax paper to make mine just for the simple fact that I have a lot of wax paper and not a lot of parchment paper. So I want to kind of reserve my parchment paper for things that I need it for. So I'm gonna use wax paper, both work. So what you need is just like a generous rectangle shape, and then we're just gonna fold it in half diagonally, and you're just looking to make a nice triangular shape. So I'm also using a really sharp knife. You don't have to use a super big one like this. It can be a little sharp knife as well. And you're just gonna run the knife along the edge to make a nice crisp edge, and then you're just gonna run your knife along the edge to actually cut the paper in half. So let's do that. Okay, so you can actually use this one for another bag later if you need to use a different color of icing. So now that you have this triangle, what you're gonna do is you're gonna start rolling one side inwards, and about halfway, you're going to make a little cone. So that's actually gonna be the tip of your piping bag. And we're just gonna keep rolling it then around, and then you're gonna make a cone shape like that. And just make sure that the tip is really sharp and pointy, and then you can literally just fold in your edges to seal off your piping bag, and then you can just simply add in your icing into here. Cut off the tip. I recommend to cut a really tiny hole because you'll be surprised how quickly that icing runs out. So depending on how detailed you want to make your decorations, just start with a really fine tip and then you can always cut it bigger if you need the icing to come out a little faster. I am going to do a bunch of different designs to hopefully inspire you guys. So I'm just going to show you them. I've got the cookies here that I just finished decorating. I still have some more to decorate. I'm just coming closer here to the window because it's already getting a little bit dark outside. I just really want to say thank you so much for watching and baking along with me today. Make sure you give this video a like if you enjoyed it and be sure to subscribe. And I also wanted to ask you guys what you would like to see me bake, keeping in mind simple ingredients, things that people should already have at home. Just comment below with your ideas. I have already asked my Instagram followers for some suggestions, so I have a few videos lined up, but I would love to hear more ideas from you guys. I hope everyone is staying safe, most importantly, staying at home, and just trying to make the best of this situation that we're in right now. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!